I'm Josh Lambert, a group product manager here at GitLab. And today I'd like to talk through what the memory group is looking to accomplish in our 12.7 milestone. We're focused on three key epics, which make up the vast majority of the 22 issues that we have planned here in our 12.7 release. You can see the full details here on our issue boards for the memory by milestone, but we also have linked the three epics to our kickoff page, and you can view them easily there as well. The first and most important project that we have is to continue to make improvements to our project import-export functionality. This is really important because we've seen customers have some problems here, in particular with importing large projects. They can take a significantly long period of time, at which point the user might assume they have failed and perhaps try again or move on to a different project. Or alternatively, they actually might never succeed in the worst case and continue to be tried over and over and over again, consuming additional resources on the GitLab server. So we want to try and solve this and make the project import and export experience much better and much more reliable for our users. We do have three primary goals for our exit criteria for this particular initiative. The first is that we want to have a 50% memory reduction on import export. We also want to have constant and predictable memory usage. On top of that, we're also trying to drive a 2x speed increase in import and export processes to reduce the amount of waiting that users have to essentially perform before they can see the results of their import. You can see the details down here below, and we're actually, as you can see, getting close to wrapping up this epic here. Most of the issues are either been solved or are assigned to our 12.7 release, which is really exciting. There are two main kind of categories of these features. Some of these are oriented towards performance, and you can see that here with things like improving the caching or using batch insert for the GitLab import into the database. But we're also working on a couple of tech debt issues as well for things like making sure we have proper unit test coverage for some of these projects and some of these functions as well. So all in all, this is really important for us. It's our top priority for the last couple of releases, and we're really looking to bring this one to a conclusion here in the near future. The next two epics that we're working on in this release is continuing to drive towards enabling Puma for the web server in GitLab. For those of you who might not be aware, currently GitLab uses Unicorn by default. Unicorn has a multi-process model for handling multiple requests at a given time on a single server. This works well, but it can end up consuming significant amounts of memory because we have to load all the libraries, all the dependencies each time for every single process. With Puma, it has a multi-threaded model, and so we can actually see some significant memory reductions for a similar type of performance as Unicorn. Right now, for our current configuration and recommended defaults, we're seeing right around a 30% reduction in memory usage for similar performance. Now, there are limits to how far we can go with threading because of the Ruby GVL. Similar to Python, this is the limitation where the Ruby interpreter will only generate code for one thread at a time. And so you can realize benefits from multi-threading with Ruby when a thread is blocked and typically has a short period of time where it's actually executing code. But the longer threads you might have, or the higher thread counts you try to achieve, and if you have some procedures or some functions that end up generating a fair amount of compute, these can end up actually causing a decrease in performance and responsiveness because the threads essentially won't be waiting on I/O, but they'll be trying to finish their execution and they'll be getting interrupted for other threads to continue. And so that's an outcome we're trying to avoid, and that's why we're also doing some tuning here as well with Puma as well to make sure we have the right values here for our customers. Along those lines, we're also working to handle how rugged the Rugged patches and Puma should work together as well. Rugged was a patch we applied to our GitLab server to help improve the performance in certain situations where our previous solution, Rugged, had better performance while we continued to work on GitLab. The two main use cases we found here were where the GitLab server was on a remote machine, and so not on the same machine as the rest of the GitLab application server, and also where the GitLab storage repos are stored had a slower performance. And both those essentially caused some undesirable performance for our customers in those situations. And so we actually have automatically applied and detect those situations and run and enable rugged to help improve the performance, as it has some improved caching support in particular, which can help with performance. While we're working to improve the native GitLab support for these use cases, we are working to make sure that Puma and rugged can work together. And you can see that work being done here in that issue. With that, you can see we're actually making quite strong progress towards having Puma enabled. And so we'll start to recommend to users to start to try Puma in its current experimental state. And we'll be driving towards enabling Puma by default in our 13.0 release later in 2020. The third topic I want to talk about here is enabling Puma on GitLab.com. So as I mentioned before, and as you could see, we're making steady progress on Puma in general, and we're very close to having Puma enabled on GitLab.com entirely. We've been working together with the infrastructure and SRE teams on GitLab.com, and we've been running Puma on a Canary node for some time in production. We saw some differences in behavior, however, we were able to trace those to changes that were unrelated to Puma. And so we wanted to go ahead and continue to deploy Puma out across a broader range of the fleet. But given the timelines and given the folks that we have going on holiday, we'll probably wait for that until after the holidays, but still part of this release to continue to further increase the rollout of Puma. And so those are the main topics that we're working on here in 12.7 for the memory team. If you have some feedback on these or any other issues, you can come find us. You can simply search for issues with the group memory label, and you'll find all the things that we are working on and also in our backlog in this group. Thanks, and looking forward to continuing the conversation.